Should I be worried about losing my job? So, will automation cause all jobs to disappear?
No, that won't happen. The problem lies not with computer science, automation or AI, but with the economy. For economic reasons, the widespread automation of jobs is impossible, at least in the foreseeable future.
Well, 26 years ago, Bill Joy wrote an essay called Why the Future Doesn't Need Us, in which he predicted that automation would cause widespread job losses.
And since then, the economic consequences have hardly been considered. The problem is economic feasibility.
So, what you're asking is whether there's enough money to finance it, right?
That's another problem. In fact, there's no way to suddenly create enough money to make major automation happen. Every stage of the automation process must be financed, from the extraction of raw materials in mines to the manufacturing of products and the distribution to consumers. You can't produce 1 million or 100 million robots overnight. First, the mines need the raw materials. To do that, you need machines, which must be produced first. If you try too fast to revolutionize the entire production chain, it will all come crashing down. This would also destroy a lot of capital, and that is exactly what you need for financing. You can only generate hype to a certain extent.
And just printing enough money will lead to inflation.
But there's an even bigger problem.
I always thought it was all about money.
It's all about demand. The problem can be explained with a simple syllogism.
A syllogism?
It's a chain of reasoning from antiquity. It goes like this. First argument. Plato is a human being. Second argument. All human beings are mortal. Conclusion. Therefore, Plato is mortal.
That's logical, but what's that got to do with the production chain of automation?
The syllogism does not work with automation. Then the argument goes as follows. First argument. Automation will make all consumers unemployed. Second argument. Automation is financed by consumers. Conclusion. Therefore, the unemployed are financing automation. In other words, if all jobs are automated, the consumers who should pay for automated products will also disappear. There will then be no buyers and the AI industry will collapse.
I think some people have already come up with a solution to this problem. UBI, Universal Basic Income.
Yes, you hear about that a lot, but not so much about how it should be financed.
What about Andrew Young, Guy Standing, or Rutger Bregman?
They all have in common that they are left-wing and have no influence in Silicon Valley. They are spot on about the economy having to change to pay for a UBI. But Silicon Valley isn't really interested in hearing about that.
Didn't the liberal economist Hayek advocate a universal basic income?
Yes, he did, but he didn't specify how it should be financed. After all, he wanted the state to collect as little tax as possible.
But Silicon Valley is calling for a UBI. Sam Altman keeps saying so.
But they remain silent about how it should be financed, for good reason. In order to finance it, their profits would have to be taxed very heavily. Tech billionaires and the UBI are not a realistic combination. You can only have one or the other.
Maybe we could wait until automation has replaced a lot of jobs and then introduce a UBI.
That's not realistic because you don't change the economic system overnight. If you want to automate work, you have to take the first steps today so that there are still consumers left to pay for the products. Otherwise, as AI advances, the market and therefore profit will shrink, and automation will end up chasing its own tail. The more successful automation becomes, the lower its profits, the less money there is to finance UBI.
Perhaps the tech billionaires have another plan that they are keeping secret.
At least in theory, there's another solution.
And what would that be?
Well, if all production is automated and the billionaires own all the machines, they can manufacture products just for themselves without any additional costs. The robots would then be there just for them.
But they might still have to buy a few things. Take energy, for instance.
This idea can only be realized if they truly own the entire production chain, and this also includes energy generation. It all starts with the creation of raw materials. This would also have to be fully automated. There exists already automated mining areas in Australia, but they are the exception.
But we're not quite at the point where tech billionaires are owning everything yet.
That would be a prerequisite. Then, of course, there's another problem. Most people would lose their job and become poor. They would not accept an entire industry that benefits only a select few.
That's why there are so many tech billionaires who are into the idea of dictatorships. Then they can impose their power on the people.
This could still lead to an uprising or a revolution, a war between humans and robots and their owners.
What a terrible thought.
Actually, it is not really in the interest of tech billionaires to go for that. They would enjoy life more in a peaceful world as well. They already have more than enough money to afford every luxury.
Greed knows no bounds.
But it is highly unlikely that this will happen. And the reason is not only that tech billionaires do not have enough capital to buy everything. Complete automation of the entire production process is still a long way off. Even the most optimistic people know that AI can only take over individual processes in production. Almost everywhere, people are still needed to correct the results of AI. AI is only perfect in theory. In practice, it makes too many mistakes. 10 years ago, Geoffrey Hinton predicted that there would be no more radiologists left in the future. Today, even with all the advances in AI, there are more radiologists than there were 10 years ago, and they are getting better pay. They use AI and are not being replaced by it.
I can finally breathe again.
It's just a bad dream. You can fantasize a scenario in which AI replaces all human workers. But the reality is so complex that it would be impossible to implement.
Utopian visions of the future are always wrong. You have an idea and you think of it in its most radical form and ignore the context.
It is also possible that the CEOs of AI companies do not believe in this utopia themselves. After all, it's not hard to understand that automation will reach its limits. For them, it's about making higher profits now, and they certainly know how to do that. The most valuable customers for AI are other companies. They want to inspire hope in these companies that their products can save jobs and therefore money and reduce production costs. They expect that most companies won't realize the complexity. And they are right. The hype helps sell them their AI. By the time these companies realize that this is a false advertising, it will be too late. They will have already integrated AI into their systems and it will be too costly to reverse the process, and that's how the tech companies win.
Nevertheless, I believe the question of whether AI will ultimately replace many jobs remains.
So far, it has only replaced a few jobs. It is mostly used as a tool. It helps qualified people to do their jobs better. There are a lot of studies coming out doubting very much a huge impact of AI on the work market, like from Challenger, Grey Christmas or SSRN. The links are below. Tay Perrick from the Financial Times concludes that you don't have to fear a job apocalypse.
Good riddance.
Schumpeter's principle of creative destruction applies. According to this principle, new tools change the way we work. This might mean job losses at first, but new jobs are then created for these tools. So unemployment is therefore only temporary. But it remains to be seen whether AI will improve in the future and be able to operate autonomously in some areas. If so, it will no longer be just a tool and no new jobs will be created.
We can't call it progress if it ends up with high unemployment.
You can't just ignore unemployment. Either new jobs are created or property is redistributed. Sometimes this can even lead to a revolution. But it is in everyone's interest to avoid this. If automation is implemented gradually, major difficulties can be prevented.
Major difficulties? So it looks like there are some issues after all.
It is not enough to just use modern technology. We also have to adapt the economy and society to this technology. Both must happen at the same time.
I am still convinced that UBI could play a part in this.
That's a topic for another video. One of the main reasons people don't like the idea of a UBI is that people would not know what to do with their free time.
I've got a few ideas about that.
While leisure is not always a bad thing, it's a topic for the next video.
I'm really looking forward to seeing it. If you don't want to miss the video, subscribe. You can also leave a comment. Thanks for watching. See you next time.